In 2010, a study was conducted on over 6,000 children to monitor how their actions were influenced by rated R movies. It was shown that there was a significant increase in the idea that these kids could get away with underage drinking. So, in this case, why are we allowing children to even watch these movies, let alone act in them? A few things to consider on this topic is how children who act in these movies are negatively affected, such as the healthiness of their mind and body, as well as the fact that not many get to enjoy their success afterward because of their age. There are a few cases of children becoming injured on set, not just in 18 plus films, but in films in general. But for this speech, we are specifically going to focus on 18 plus films. A prime example is the young actor who played the possessed child on the movie The Exorcist. While she was filming, her spine was actually fractured. While young actors are physically affected, they have been mentally affected as well acting on these rated R movies. The same kid who was injured on the set of The Exorcist actually claimed she was put under a lot of pressure in her interviews and she didn't know how to answer a lot of the questions after the film was released. Additionally, the young actor on Halloween stated it hurt her career and she had to sleep with her mom until she was 15 years old because of how terrified she was by the movie. Most young actors who play a role in these films are forced to follow the same rules as any other adolescent, and they are not permitted to watch the film they were in once the filming has been wrapped up. Anna Paquin in the film Fly Away Home is a pretty great example of this. She actually won an Academy Award for her role in this movie, and she said that she was frustrated that she still was not allowed to see her movie on preview night, let alone in general, because of how young she was. As someone who enjoys watching many films, and I spent many of my years as a young teenager babysitting younger kids, I have a strong interest in this topic. Many of the films that I've seen, whether they're horror or just rated R movies in general, no matter what the topic of the movie is, there's always been a kid underage, whether they're 16 or 5, there's always somehow a child involved in these movies. And I was curious about how they become physically and mentally affected by acting in such a film, and I couldn't imagine the kids that I would babysit acting in these kinds of movies. Today I will clarify 3 reasons why child actors should not be allowed to film on R-rated movies. First, child actors risk developing physical dangers, such as the girl on The Exorcist who ended up having a fractured spine. Second, they risk developing mental struggles, such as the girl who acted on the Halloween franchise who had to sleep with her mom until she was 15 years old because of how much the movie scared her. And lastly, they are not old enough to witness the movie, so they're not allowed to watch it, go into previews, and they're not allowed to generally celebrate their success of how well they acted on their film. As someone who has younger siblings and deeply cares for the children I used to babysit for, I can't help but feel a sense of responsibility for sharing these young actors' experiences and describing the importance of protecting these kids, even if it's from acting on the silver screen, which is many kids' dream. The first prime example that I mentioned before of physical injury on a rated R set is the actor on The Exorcist. And the problem here is that children are putting their careers at risk. Specifically, this young actor was acting possessed during the iconic bed scene in the movie, and while she was flailing around and acting like she was possessed, her spine actually was fractured. And while this may not seem like a super serious injury to some, it later developed into scoliosis because of how serious her injury actually was. And the cast stated that the lacing came loose as she was tied to the bed, which is how she ended up fracturing her spine because she was pulled in the wrong direction, and the footage was actually kept in the film. A solution that could prevent this from happening is the equipment on set could be regularly checked. It would help keep the cast safe, and it would help keep the staff safe as well. And of course, these children can be not allowed to be put in such exacerbated roles. That is a crazy word. Exacerbated. There we go. Exacerbated. Not Not only have young child stars been physically hurt on set, a few have stated that they have felt an increase in pressure in their career after filming, or even become more terrified of their everyday life. To continue, the same actor who was injured on the set of The Exorcist stated that she felt unprepared for the amount of pressure that was put on her once the film was released to the public. The problem with this is children are feeling immense tension during interviews, specifically this one actor, but there are many more examples of this that are put online. In an interview on Dread Central, the child stated, "When the movie came out, the amount of pressure that came down on me wasn't anything I was prepared for, especially the pressure that the press put on me." Fear has also been stricken into the hearts of these child actors as well. In an interview on Halloween Daily News, the actor that I mentioned beforehand on the Halloween franchise stated, "Seeing it all pieced together, it was just really scary, and I really did sleep with my mom until I was 15 years old after that." She also went on then to state that she would never act in a horror film again, and she stuck to her word. A good solution for this problem is, of course, the obvious plausible answer to not let children act in these rated R films, whether they are horror films or not. But interviewers can be required to ask these children simple and lighthearted questions to keep them from feeling too pressured and more comfortable in their environment as they're growing in this workspace of acting. And an on-set therapist / mental health screenings can also be required for children who are especially acting in horror films, such as the girl who acted on the Halloween franchise, and maybe if something like this was provided for her, she would have continued to act in horror films as she got older. As children are being put at risk from pressure and mental health issues and physical complications, they are also denied seeing their sacrifices put to work in the end. We must recognize this issue. The big problem is children cannot witness the work that they have put into months or even years of acting into these movies, and they are not allowed to celebrate their success with their peers. A good example of this is Anna Paquin in Fly Away Home. She won an Academy Award for her amazing role in the movie, but she was still denied access to premiere night. And in an article, she went on to state that she was disappointed and frustrated at the fact that she could not celebrate her success with her fellow peers on the movie just because of her age. A good solution to this problem would be children who act should be allowed to watch the film if they are escorted by a parent, and this would be a more fair solution than not allowing them to watch the movie at all, instead of making them wait 10 years down the road to be able to watch their movie legally. While the bad experiences in the filming industry for children do need their own justification, the good experiences can outweigh the bad. Although there are many downsides to young actors being cast into roles in adult films, there are also some good experiences. I'm sure we are all familiar with the movie Child's Play. The main actor Alex Vincent states in an interview with Pop Horror that, "I've gotten to travel all over the world, meeting fans and attending horror conventions. It has opened up so many possibilities in my life." In addition to this, Jodelle Ferland, who acted on Silent Hill, Cabin in the Woods, and The Unspoken, which are all iconic horror movies, she speaks about how in her early days of her career, she loved working on horror more than anything else in any other genre, and she felt that these kind of films challenged her in many different ways and made her feel like she was preparing for everyday life more differently than she would acting on other movies. As we can see from these two statements alone, there are positive cases of children acting in adult films, even if they cannot watch them afterwards. While some are harmed on these sets, others can thrive as well. Now that we have gone over some more favorable experiences shared by the child actors, we can review the points that I have made today. Young actors should not be allowed to act in 18+ movies for 3 specific reasons. First, they risk injury, such as the girl who acted on The Exorcist, how her spine was fractured and it affected her later on in life, eventually developing into scoliosis. Secondly, they have raised chances to become mentally/emotionally challenged, like the actor who acted on Halloween, who had to sleep with her mother until she was 15 years old. And lastly, the vast majority of these children actors cannot watch the movies they are in, which is not fair to them in general, because they can't celebrate the work and see how all their hard work put into this film, and they are not allowed to celebrate their success as well. While many young stars begin their journey at a young age, we can still protect them by withholding them from acting in such exacerbated films. And these are my note cards, front and back.